from the campus of Howard University in Washington, D.C. This is NewsVision, a newscast written, reported, and produced by capstone journalists in the Department of Media, Journalism, and Film.
Good evening. I'm Ashleigh Fields, and you're watching NewsVision, a capstone course for senior broadcast journalism students at Howard University. In this special election newscast, we are covering the races and the issues that matter to you most, from Capitol Hill to your community. And in communities across the country, the issues range from crime and healthcare to reproductive rights and the economy. At stake, all seats in the House of Representatives and 34 states will elect senators. Tens of thousands of voters took part in early voting across the country, and here in the district, residents have been able to cast their ballots all day long. NewsVision reporter Kendall Lanier was out when the polls first opened.
The anticipated midterm election day is finally here. DC polling locations opened their doors at 7 a.m., welcoming anyone ready to make their voices heard.
I'm here to vote because it's part of our democratic process. I'm excited to be here. The reason I'm so early is because I need to get to work. I work for DHS, and part of my job today is to ensure the elections go great, so just need to get to work.
For many voters, they were not just casting their ballot for themselves, but to make a greater impact on the country.
As a Black woman and someone in DC, I think it's always important to make sure that my voice is heard and to make sure that I'm voting for the right people in terms of making the best decisions for myself and younger generation.
But for others, it's never too late to participate in democracy. 63-year-old Victor Johnson is voting for the first time because he says it's time for a change.
I voted for the kids, for a better community. I'm 63 years old, so if I don't do something now, there'll be no better time to do it than now. So I did it. I voted. It's the first time in my life I voted. I see a little bit in the people that's running for the elections,
Many DC residents woke up bright and early to brace the 45-degree weather and exercise their right to vote. Voters are looking to see a change in both policies and those in office.
I wanted to, for the first time I voted against my party, to change up the status quo. I'm normally Democrat, and for the first time ever I voted Republican because we've had Democrats in office for so long. But I just think it's time to mix it up. We've been kind of stagnant for a while.
But regardless of party affiliation, what matters most here is that they took part in the process.
I voted, and I'm happy.
For Howard University NewsVision, I'm Kendall Lanier.
Each of DC's 8 wards has several polling locations, though the district also participated in early voting that ended November 6th. Here in the nation's capital, voters have a number of concerns, like crime, homelessness, and affordable housing. No doubt, these issues are on voters' minds as they went to the polls. NewsVision reporter Milexa Cardona joins us now with more. Hi, Milexa.
Hey, Ashleigh. There are 4 candidates running for mayor this year, all who hope to tackle the local issues that DC residents are concerned about. On the ballot, incumbent DC Mayor Muriel Bowser, who was at the polls this morning with her daughter to cast her ballot in hopes of being re-elected for a 3rd term. It's election day, and DC Mayor Muriel Bowser made sure to cast her vote along with other DC residents early this morning at Riggs LaSalle Recreational Center.
Our primary voters were loud and clear that they wanted a seasoned leader who can make tough decisions and who they trusted to bring our city back. And that's what we're focused on, reinvesting in our public safety, our schools, our downtown and corridors and neighborhoods, and making sure every Washingtonian can participate in the progress of our city.
There are 4 mayoral candidates on this year's ballot: Stacia Hall, Dennis Sabin, and Rodney Grant. Residents at the polls seem to favor Bowser running for her 3rd term as mayor in this year's midterm election.
I like what the mayor's done in terms of running the city, especially coming out of COVID. But I would love to also see some reforms made in education as well.
When voting for the mayor, I'm really impressed with a lot of the development that Muriel Bowser Bowser has been able to manage in the district, and I think she did a really good job during the pandemic.
Although many residents are content with Bowser remaining in office, there are still many concerns. And many people are concerned about crime in the city. If reelected, what plans do you have in place to make the citizens of DC feel safer?
Well, what citizens know is that they trust me to make the tough decisions that we need, for making sure, as I have fought for over the last 2 years, that we have the police officers that we need, that we have the human services supports that our young people need, and that we are making sure that we have strong laws that hold everybody accountable.
The winner of the mayoral race will be announced, determining if the favored Muriel Bowser will keep her seat. Bowser will be at Hook Hall tonight when we find out the winner, and I'll be right there to cover the story. Ashleigh, back to you.
Voter suppression has been a systematic and serious issue in the U.S., dating from days of Jim Crow to civil rights to now. The Ronald W. Walter Center at Howard University works with students from Howard to Clark Atlanta University to monitor, track, and report instances of voter suppression nationwide, as well as report on Black voting patterns. NewsVision reporter Ianna Fenton has the story.
The Ronald W. Walter Center is continuing its 10-year run in hosting the Command Center at Howard University for the 2022 midterm election. Named after the late political scientist and activist, the center focuses on collecting data and creating a database to identify Black candidates running for office, as well as identify voter suppression issues throughout the country.
We just seem to have people now who don't want Black people elected to office, don't want Black people to vote, so they put in all these new laws in certain states, in many states, that make it more difficult to get registered to vote and to make it more difficult to vote.
The center also has affiliates in about 10 states reporting on what is happening in their local election. Scott says nationwide, what voters are seeing in their home states is concerning.
But, you know, the people who put these laws in place and says, well, what's wrong that the turnout is greater? But in part, the turnout is greater because people feel like their rights are being taken away. And if they don't do something about it, that they will be back in post-Reconstruction era. And that's frightening.
It's scary times. I know my teacher's been talking about like people showing up with like, you know, machine guns almost and waiting outside. Not machine guns, like AK-15s or whatever they're called, like the really big guns though, and sitting outside of like election booths and voting election areas and like intimidating voters.
I'm standing outside what is being used as the control room as today's election unfolds. Reports from all over the country are coming in as to what voters are facing today, from physical fights in Pittsburgh to voter suppression in Detroit. And it is here that we await the election results. For Howard University News Service, I'm Ianna Fenton.
Dr. Scott also stated that this year's election is much different because of the updated U.S. Census. Fewer minorities participated in 2020, resulting in less support from these communities now. Many of the races across the country will also determine the balance of powerful governorships. There are 5 states that feature a Black candidate on the ballot for governor, including Maryland. Democrat Wes Moore stands to become the first Black governor in the state. He's in a tight race against Republican Dan Cook. NewsVision reporter Aquil has the story. He's in District 12 in Baltimore, and this morning voters were casting their ballots with him.
It is a vital day for Baltimore this election. Baltimore Montessori's Public Charter School is the poll location for District 12. Voters are casting their ballots for either Democrat candidate Wes Moore or Republican candidate Dan Cox. Today is Election Day, and right now I am standing right in front of the Baltimore Montessori Public Charter School, in which this is the city's 12th voting district for Baltimore. And after speaking to some voters today, they have expressed that they're really excited and thrilled to be sworning in or voting for a Democratic governor for their city this year. I was able to interview some of the Baltimore residents who voted and what this day means to them.
I feel great. I think I'm really excited to have a Democratic mayor in Baltimore again. I think it's going to happen. So in Maryland, but Baltimore specifically. And I was really excited to vote for the legalization of cannabis. I thought that was pretty neat. So
I feel like I exercise my democratic rights as an American citizen. So I feel good.
If you are a Baltimore resident, please remember that in-person voting closes at 8 p.m. today in the city of Baltimore. So if you are wanting to go out and vote today, please remember that at 8 p.m. is the deadline.
Besides Maryland, Black candidates are featured on the ballot for governor in Arkansas, Iowa, Alabama, and in Georgia, where Stacey Abrams is trying for a second time. But it's the race for Senate that has been making national headlines. There are two Black men running to represent the Peach State. Raphael Warnock and Herschel Walker are the two top contenders in the race, with Warnock representing the Democratic Party and Walker representing the Republican Party.
I expect that we will see some reproductive choice legislation come through the Senate. If it is not a democratically led Senate, we're going to have some big problems.
I want the Republicans to take the House and the Senate just to stop. If you ever want balance, you can't have a one-party rule.
With being elected in 2021, if he wins this election, Senator Warnock will run his first full term. Polls will close at 8 p.m. In 2020, voter turnout was at a high, and a great percentage of these ballots belong to the collegiate demographic. What does this mean for midterm elections? NewsVision reporter Westley has the story.
When it comes to the 2022 midterm elections, one generation may be the determining factor in many of the races. Generation Z. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, top issues like social and policy problems have influenced young voters born after 1996. At Catholic University, students talked about matters that concerned them most and influenced them at the ballot.
Abortion, it should be allowed every state. You know, as a man, I don't feel like I have control over a woman's body, and that's not up to me.
My big issue is climate change and environmental justice, because you know, you can fight for all these other issues, but we're not going to have a planet to reap the benefits on if we don't really focus on climate change.
The student debt relief is big for me because I pay for my own college, so it's definitely essential. Yeah, pro-choice is another big one because that's very necessary.
People will not pander to you, and they will not listen to you, and they will not do things for you unless they know you're paying attention. And so I think that's why we see a lot of lawmakers not really caring about Gen Z.
The midterm elections are extremely important because all 435 seats in Congress are up for re-election, alongside the future of our democracy. For Howard University NewsVision, I'm Westley.
Research by the Center for American Progress organization suggests that by 2036, millennials and Gen Z eligible voters will increase dramatically across states in America, in contrast to what has been seen in previous generations. Today, the campus was buzzing with energy from students eager to cast their first ballot, while others were writing their first story. Sophomores, juniors, and seniors banded together to present high-level coverage of the midterm election. Multimedia journalists from Howard University came together to cover this crucial midterm election. 4 professors and over 100 students spent the day in 3 newsrooms to uphold the Kathy Hughes School of Communications motto, excellence without excuse.
We always want to be where news happens. You know, journalism is always changing, and it's best to get better at something through experience.
Today I've been assigned a precinct story at the Tacoma Park election polling place, so I went there early this morning. I got there like 6:30 in the morning. It was one of the first experiences where I was able to actually get outside of SOC and really put my skills to the test.
Students traveled to Baltimore for the governor's race, around different wards in D.C. for the mayoral race, and even to Arlington to gain voters' perspective firsthand.
On our website, you can find a myriad of stories from multimedia. We're doing podcasting. Our capstone class is doing a newscast that we're going to turn around, and we're sharing our content with hundreds of members of the Black press. So the information and the stories that are being gathered now are going to be shared across the country.
Students were able to successfully achieve the department's vision with the help of journalism faculty and one very special alumnus.
I've been with CNN since 2006.
Kenny landed a job with CNN for video editing after a fellow church member noticed his talent. Today, he is hoping to return the favor by helping current students hone in on their craft.
Looking at how they're going in and out of sound bites, you know, transitions. Are they using transitions? Are they using graphics at all? What I want to do here is to show the students, okay, how do you do a package that's going to keep the viewer entertained and glued to the television set.
This is the first time it will be in person since the pandemic. So students are going to get the real feel of the newsroom. What we try to do is make sure there's food for lunch and for dinner, since people will be working way past when the polls close. We don't want to miss any opportunity to give voice to the way people are seeing things and the perspectives.
For Howard University NewsVision, I'm Ashleigh Fields. We were beyond ecstatic to take part in history as journalists covering the midterm election. As we wrap up this historic election, we want to take one last look at voting around the nation's capital. From Ward 1 to Ward 8, Election Day is a chance to let your voice be heard. NewsVision reporter Quam Odunsi spent time capturing some of the special moments of democracy in action. We hope you all took time today to cast your vote and honor your civic duty. I'm Ashleigh Fields, and for all of us here at NewsVision, thank you so much for joining us for this special election newscast.